Hey, everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you tuning in. I am Ashley Lazarian, a local realtor here in the metro Atlanta areas, selling the suburbs north of Atlanta. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I have got some great things for us to go over today. We're going to be joined by Ray Ellen a little bit later in the show. Just going to be going over some of the topics that I get questions on all of the time, which is going to be foreclosures right now. So, obviously, with everything that's going on in the market, foreclosures is one of those things that I feel like never goes away as far as a question. When people ask me, like, what's the number one thing people ask about, it's always, first, how's the market? And then what's going on with foreclosures? Right? Because so many people I feel like are looking for a deal or looking to get into investing. And the way that they think about doing that is by getting some of these lower priced homes. So we're going to be talking about all of that going over today, because I've been seeing some mixed messages in the media. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I swear that every time I'm looking at the media, they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth. One headline reads that we're plummeting and we're in for this major crash and recession. And then the other side is saying that, home prices are still rising and we're looking good. So how can both be happening at the same time is always a fantastic question. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I would love to hear where you guys are tuning in from. We're here every Thursday. Usually during the summer, we are doing every other Thursday, just to give you guys a little bit of a break during the summer. I know a lot of us are home with kids and got things going on. So drop a comment below. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Also, let me know if you have questions. The main reason that we do this every week or every other week right now is to make sure that we're answering all of your real estate questions. There's so much mixed news, and I want to make sure that you are hearing it straight from what we're seeing here on the ground level. Also, I feel like a lot of what we see is national news. And I want to make sure that if you're looking at real estate based here in Georgia, that you're knowing what's really going on here in the Peach State compared to nationally, because obviously it fluctuates everywhere. So I am super excited to get started. So let's just take a look here. Oh, Betty Ayers, hello from Sugar Hill. Oh, so you're local. Good to see you, Betty. Thanks for joining us today. So looking at some of the headlines recently, I've been seeing mixed signals about foreclosures. And one of the things, I'm going to share my screen just so I make sure that you guys are getting all of the information that I see. But if you look here, it talks about home foreclosures are rising nationwide, with Florida, California, and Texas in the lead. Then we've got U.S. foreclosures on properties rise 22% in the first quarter. So we've got all of this, great information here, but it makes it sound like we're just going to be tumbling into a foreclosure moment anytime. So that I don't understand, because if you look at things over here, give me just a second, let's swap this out. If you look here, Georgia is number 12 in the entire 50 states for foreclosures. But if you really read the fine print, ranked 8th in population. So if we're 8th in population, then the Peach State took the 12th spot for the highest foreclosure rate. Of its 4,375,000 homes, 1,200 were foreclosed on. So that just is not a big number. And that's not to say that any foreclosures are good. It's definitely not good. But that is not a huge number. So for me, looking at that, foreclosures are on the rise, perhaps, but 1,200 for our entire state is just not a huge aggressive number if you're looking at it overall. And so if you look closely to this, it says the counties with the most foreclosure per housing unit were, hold on, let me make this bigger. Look, Ray's joining. Hey, how are you? I can't hear you. Give me the magic touch, Ray. Give it to me. We're sitting here going over foreclosures. Fun stuff. Oh, I can kind of hear you.
Yay. Okay.
Yay.
Kind of. Hear me
Yeah, there, you're on. You're good.
Okay, good. Sorry about
Your
that.
radio voice is coming through strong.
Hi. So I totally clicked like whenever the invite, I clicked the Google Meets link like an idiot. I was just like waiting there on Google. And I was like, wait, maybe there's another link. It was totally my fault. My bad.
It's all good. We were just diving in. I was telling, everybody we started talking about foreclosures because it's just one of those topics. I feel like as a realtor, it's one of those things that's never off the table. I feel like no matter what market we're in, it's one of those things that people are always like, so where's the foreclosures? Where can I get a good deal? Do you get that?
Yeah. I mean, so, we went to foreclosure moratorium for 2 years. So I think there's going to be a lot more foreclosures hitting the market over the next 2 or 3 years and what I'm not looking forward to is the media like being like, oh, look at all the foreclosures.
Yeah.
But yet it's just all these foreclosures that couldn't be foreclosed on because the moratorium on it for 2 years. And so I would expect to see an uptick in foreclosures coming, but it's not necessarily the best way to find a deal. You can find great deals with properties that are currently listed.
Right. And so I found this article and it's kind of funny to me because I was just sharing it. So Georgia, where I'm located, is number 12 ranked on this list, right? But if you really look closely, it says out of over 4 million homes, 1,200 were foreclosed on. So I looked you up. Let's go down here.
Am I way up the list? Is that
No, but that's good. That's good. You're way down the list. You're number 28.
Oh, so we have fewer foreclosures.
You have fewer.
Mm-hmm.
You have fewer.
We also have way fewer homes.
230 went into foreclosure.
Yeah, that's not a lot.
No. And so my point to this was, I don't know about you guys in Arkansas. I think this is pretty much across the country. Correct me if I'm wrong, but here in Georgia, we still have a massive shortage of inventory. Are you guys feeling the same pain?
Yeah.
So 230 houses come on the market tomorrow. Do you think that there's going to be like massive just depreciation because of that?
No, not at all. If anything, it's going to fill the void. So in the top 1/3 of the market, it's slowed down. In the middle 1/3 of the market, it's a little slower. At the bottom 1/3 of the market, stuff's selling like hotcakes. Like you can't keep inventory. It's crazy. And so if anything, most foreclosures are probably going to be priced in the lower end of the market.
Right.
And that's going to be some reprieve for that supply side that demand in the bottom side. So you're going to have some supply side help, but it's not going to be that much.
Right. The U.S., this article blew me away. The U.S. needs 4.3 million homes to close the affordability gap.
Yeah.
Another article, I think I saw 3.8 million. So
that number keeps going up.
Right. But so either way, I feel like if we did see any of these foreclosures come up, they're just going to be absorbed by the market as soon as they hit the market because we're at such a shortage.
Yeah. Or the investors have stopped buying stupid deals now.
Right.
What I mean is stupid deal. I don't mean stupid good. I mean, like they were just paying market price for stuff. Investors are not doing that anymore. It doesn't seem so. If anything, it would help some of them find properties and then put them back on the market, flip them, and add to the inventory that way.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people ask me recently, where did the investors go?
To Arkansas. Man, I'm only half joking about that. It seems like in October of last year, whenever rates hit 7%, which I think the first time they hit 7% was in October, we exploded with investor interest. And I think that's in part because Arkansas was mentioned on Bigger Pockets, specifically Little Rock and some areas like that where we work.
Right.
And so we got tons of inquiries and they would all say the same thing. We're looking at Boise, Little Rock, and Birmingham, Alabama. Like, okay, well, they would all say that. So we just got to where like we would get a random call and be like, what other areas? And just expect them to say those other 2 areas because that's what was on the podcast.
Right.
But in reality, you can find pretty good deals here because Home prices have gone up, but they've only gone up like 24% the first year of the pandemic, 14 or 15% the second year. So we haven't seen the 100% increase of home prices, but we have seen a increase in the rents. So rents have gone up, home prices have not gone up in the same rate. So you're able to get a pretty good investment here.
Right.
But they all they're all like, oh, I saw this property for $50,000. I think it's a great investment. And I'm like, bro, nobody's going to live there. Like,
Right.
you still have to find the investments in the right area. So
Yeah.
that's where we come in to kind of point them in the right direction, help them find what they're looking for that meets their box, their buy box.
Right.
But we have, like, it used to be about 30% of our business. Right now, investors are right at half of our business.
Okay. So there's been, I guess, a slowdown here in Georgia where I feel like the last couple of years, I think in 2021, investors accounted for about 33% of sales. So it was an enormous amount of the sales here in Georgia were due to those investors. And a lot of them, it wasn't just like your mom and pop investors. It was like, the big money investors.
Big guys, yeah. They were buying neighborhoods.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, that obviously pushes out a lot of people from being able to even afford a home to start with. But I also feel like a lot of the inventory shortage, people keep asking, like, where is that coming from? Why are we having such an inventory shortage? I think of a lot of people don't realize that we're still like lagging behind with builders from 2008, 2009 all the way to 2013. We didn't even really hit the bottom of the market until 2012, and builders have just never really recovered from that. I was reading this article, More Homes Coming to the US. So it said that the number of building projects started rose 21.7% in May from the prior months to the highest level in more than a year. So I mean, that's pretty exciting news, because that's definitely going to help bridge that gap of inventory shortages. It's right here. The pace of home building has still not fully recovered from the subprime mortgage crisis of 2007 to 2008. So I feel like that just goes to show, what we've been talking about with the shortage of inventory.
Yeah. I tell this story a lot, but in 2019, December of 2019, we had a supply issue, and a news article came out talking about housing starts being 13% up. And it was like this huge, like, oh yes, finally some reprieve to this supply issue. And then 3 months later, COVID hit.
Right.
And the supply side issues that they had there with the materials and everything like that, they no longer could keep up. And then that put them behind even further. But people forget that we were in a seller's market before all of this stuff happened. But it wasn't a sell in 2 days seller's market.
Right.
Back then it was a seller's market where you could sell in 30 to 60 days. And that was kind of pretty good and normal. And if you went to 90 days, it wasn't that big of a deal, but you'd probably still sell, that's the kind of seller's market. And the sellers were getting, some preferable terms in most parts of the country. The major markets, they may be multiple offers. The minor markets, I'm going to call myself a minor market because we're smaller. We would have sellers get their price, but still have to pay some closing costs or make some concessions. And for us, that was a seller's market, because the market before that was a buyer's market. And that was a market where offers were coming in $10,000 under, and they were asking for their terms, and they were asking for closing costs, and sellers were willing to give it up.
Right.
And so all the headlines about like, oh, the world's going to implode because now sellers are on the market for 30 days instead of 2. That's just, that's drivel. It's not true. Yeah. So finally, housing starts are at 21%. They are going up, but it's going to take years for them to build enough homes to get us out of the situation with demand that we're in now. Yeah. And because so many people have, and you may be getting to this later, but because so many people have interest rates on their current mortgage that's below 6%, which is the majority of Americans, that why would they move for 7? So they have to have a compelling reason to move right now and to put the other house on the market. Right. If we were to build or buy a home right now, there's no way I would sell this house. I got a 2.7, 2.8% rate. Yep. They're basically paying me to keep this house. Why would I sell this house? And that's the position that I think a lot of people are in.
Matt LaMarche is joining us. Hi, Matt. Thank you for joining.
Hi, Matt.
Love us some Matt LaMarche. He's another agent here in Atlanta. He specializes in more of like the city and the Cobb West Side. So love when Matt joins. Always a
I'm in
great
his fan
conversation.
club.
Yes, but no, I'm with you. I feel like a lot of people don't realize the interest rates that were, and the 2 and 3%, like that wasn't normal. We're not going to see that again. And then kind of like you said, we've talked about moving, my husband and I personally, and we've said like we wouldn't sell our home. We would hold on to it as an investment property. And I think that that's what we're seeing a lot is people that have those low interest rates. They're still buying, but they're keeping the home. And so that's just creating more inventory shortage because they're like, I'm not going to get rid of this interest rate. I'm going to hold on to this house as an investment property and move on to the next.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're saying. It's creating some opportunistic investors, I would say, some people that a couple of years ago were thinking about investing that never would have invested and just, they would have just sold their home as normal and kept moving them maybe one day down the road. And now they're like, wait a minute, would it be smart for us to sell right now? Would it, and so they're really taking the opportunity with this really low rate. 78% of home buyers, though, are waiting on a 5.5% rate.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they're just waiting.
Well, and I mean, there's a lot of people that still have to move, right? Like you're getting relocated. I know here in Georgia, we're seeing a ton of people that are coming here from, other states throughout the country. Georgia has just really seen an influx of that over the last 3 years. I think it's been going on for a while, but the last 3 years, it's been substantial. And
where do people come from to go to Georgia?
Most people we've seen from California, an enormous amount from California.
It's coast to coast move there. That's
right.
That's 4 time zones. That's a big deal.
Yeah. But it's so funny because when they come here, I've lived in Atlanta my whole life, 40 years, and I'm just like, oh my God, traffic, blah, blah, blah. And they get here and they're like, this is nothing. This traffic is nothing. And I'm like, I do everything I can not to drive into the city at 8 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And they're like, oh, it's a breeze.
Yeah. I mean, we have no traffic, even compared to Atlanta, we have no traffic.
Really?
And so, when the Californians come here, they're like, wait a minute, is that too far outside of town? I was like, no, that takes you about 10 minutes to get downtown.
Right.
They're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not.
No. I wish it was like that here, but no. I think Georgia's problem is we didn't build the correct infrastructure prior to everyone moving here. So the majority of people have come from California, New York. We're getting some Miami, Chicago. So, people come here. I think there's a lot of job opportunity here. There's tax incentives for businesses. And so a lot of companies have come here. And so when companies come, people come, there's jobs. And so that's really driven a lot of our market.
We're not an aggressive growth area.
Right.
I mean, we kind of don't want it to grow too fast.
Right.
The people here, we want them to love the natural state. And, in 20 minutes, we can be in the thick of the wilderness, hiking around and getting on we call them mountains. They're not official mountains, but hiking around the mountains. And in 20 more minutes, you can be in the middle of downtown, walking around and stuff. So I don't know. Arkansas is an interesting place. Amazon was looking for like a new headquarter and stuff like that. And this created like a big hubbub in our area where the leaders of our city created this thing. It was a love letter to Amazon that basically said, it's not you, it's us. We don't want you here. And, as like an economic development, that's probably not the smartest move because you want companies to know, like, you guys can come here. We're a really good environment. We got smart people, good stuff is happening. But as a culture, that was pretty well right on where the culture was, where we don't want to grow too fast because if too many people come in, then our house prices go crazy. And, the state parks, you can't even book a reservation anymore. And our state parks are legit. Like, they have beautiful cabins and the scenery is incredible. And you can go on a hiking trail and not see anyone for a little while. So we love that. And we love that effect. But it's, if it grows too fast, all that goes away.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's an interest. It's kind of a weird place.
I don't know. It sounds amazing to me. We're planning a trip out west, and it's a completely different ball game here in Georgia. I feel like when the Olympics happened in 1996, a lot of people came here, and that kind of put Georgia on the map, right? And so ever since then, it's kind of just been steadily growing. And then the last 3 years was just like open the floodgates, everybody coming here. Because a lot of people, I think, were, how do I say this politically correct, tired of what their states were doing. And so they were like,
Yeah.
Georgia sounds great. Let's head on down. And there's a lot of job opportunity here. And one of the things that I do love about Georgia, and you just mentioned it about Arkansas, was in 45, I live in Suwanee, which is like a suburb just north of Atlanta. I can be to the city in 40 minutes. I can be to the mountains in 40 minutes. And I can be with my freaking toes in the sand in about 3 hours. So like
Yeah.
in Georgia, you can do it all.
Yeah.
Which is
We
awesome.
don't have we have lake beaches.
That's
They're
something.
they're not ocean beaches. We're still about 8 hours away from the nearest ocean.
Yeah.
But other than that, you've got everything else you get. And our lake beaches are pretty nice. They're pretty cool. They're, well
What's the
groomed.
most popular one there?
Well, I don't go to the most popular. There's like Lake Hamilton, and there's a couple of big lakes that have nice beaches that a lot of people like to go. Lake DeGray, but we found this little point where no one goes, and so I'm not going to say it. and that's where we go, and it's like this little known place that we'll go a couple of times a year, and it's kind of secluded and away from everybody, but you can still find those types of places here, and I think that's what people really like.
Yeah. I think a lot of people here, I have a client right now. She lives in the city. She works in the city. And so we're actually actively looking for a property in the North Georgia mountains for her because she only has to go in 3 days a week. So the other days she's like, why would I stay in the city if I don't have to? She kept doing Airbnbs and she was like, why the hell do I keep paying for this? I should just buy a place and stop, and start investing in that. And so that's what we're working on now. So I feel like a lot of people like the fact that you can be in the mountains in a very short time because then you get the best of both worlds. But she was renting for a while, and like you were just saying a little while ago, rent has gone through the roof. And I feel like that's just something that people are really struggling with because the inventory shortage is still making it pretty hard to buy, so people are renting. But so much of the investors bought up kind of the middle and lower class properties. And so a lot of people are having to rent. And I was reading this article. It said, where did all the real estate investors go? Because people were like, why were we seeing so many over the last couple of years? And like now it just feels like they've all gone. And it was funny because it says many factors have influenced the unusual market, of course, but one that affects the housing shortage in particular is institutional real estate investment. And I know that BlackRock was one of the ones, especially here, that was buying up, entire neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Did you experience the same?
We had there's some investors. Is it like public knowledge in your area who owns the most properties? Do they have like a thing? Okay. Yes. So tracking it, there wasn't like something named BlackRock, but there were a couple of businesses that BlackRock was involved with that owned a lot of properties in the area. Some are now being liquidated. There's one guy that owns like 300 properties and he's starting to put them on. But if you own 300 properties, you're in like the top 10. Right. So we didn't get a huge influx of institutional investors, but I would say the second tier institutional investors, the ones who are looking to buy 30 homes a year and stuff like that, we have gotten a big influx from them. And it's really hard for us to satisfy the demand that they're looking for because there's just not that many properties on the market. And then they have certain expectations about the condition of the property. So if we use wholesalers and such, their houses are pretty rough compared to what they're wanting. So I think in your area, the build to suit and the situations of, actually they were BTRs in Georgia and Florida. That was a huge market where these entire neighborhoods were just built to rent. And BlackRock was the one that was doing that, which they've kind of stepped in it lately. So we'll see what happens. They've been in the news a lot lately.
They have. I'm kind of like, where's all of this going? So this article kind of blew me away. It says, according to the Research Center, for more U.S. households are headed by renters than at any point since at least 1965.
Yeah.
That's.
Is this a bad thing in your opinion? What do you think? This?
Okay, so that leads me to this article here, right? This blew my mind. And I guess here's my thing. I think that there's a time and a place for renting all the time, at all times.
Yeah.
Nobody is ready to own their own home at every point in their life. I think there is
Right.
always a time that you should rent. When my husband and I first got married, we were young. We had no idea what we were doing. We didn't know where we wanted to be. We were renters. I feel like there's a
Yeah.
time where maybe you're going through a transition. Things come up where you absolutely should rent. I tell a lot of people that are moving here, if they know the school district that they want to be in, or they know where their job is going to be, great, let's buy. But if you don't know those things, don't move to a completely new state and buy a house, because you have no idea what area you're going to like. They're all different. Get here and kind of, check things out, check out the cities, go just sit and like people watch and realize this is a great place, or holy crap, I don't want to be here at all. But my thing with this is, this article sits here and talks about the fact, it quotes, stable, decent housing in a safe, healthy community is a fundamental need. Owning it is not. I came from a family where my grandparents were from upstate Virginia. They were not wealthy people at all. Like, I remember my great grandmother used to peel tomatoes for a penny a day. Like, when I say they were poor, they were poor. Over time, my grandparents moved to Atlanta. My grandfather bought a house in the 60s. I think his interest rate was like 18%, which I've never seen that in my 18 years of being in real estate. But he was like, I wanted to own something, and that's what it took. So I did. And he sold that house and bought another house, and sold that house and bought the lake house, and sold that house and bought a different house. And now, unfortunately, he's passed on. My grandmother was able to sell that house that they owned outright and be in an assisted living where she needs to be. She would not be able to afford that had they not traded equity time and time again. So that got them to where they need to be. So if you choose to rent your entire life and you never take on the benefits of equity, what is that going to do? Like, that is generational wealth building in real estate.
That's a good point. I know it's real estate is the number one way where those who make the most money in the world made their money, right? So
Right.
we know that is the most effective wealth builder. But I just feel like this next generation is going to view real estate differently than we. I'm the oldest millennial, so I just turned 40,
Okay.
and I think they called my year the Oregon Trail generation.
Yep.
So we were outside our entire childhood, and then computers entered the home when I was about 12 or 13.
Yep.
And we had the internet and all this other stuff. So we know I know how to code because MySpace, right? I was building websites for small businesses in my town.
Right.
The whole HTML code and JavaScript was like new and cool.
Yep.
And so our generation kind of has this best of both worlds. And I think it happened too with real estate, where the very oldest millennial bought a little bit sooner. They now have, over these last 3 years, experienced a huge wealth build because now they have equity that they didn't put in and didn't have before. And that equity is going to launch them and propel them into the future. But I think it feels like the younger generation doesn't view housing like we do as an investment vehicle or as something to build wealth with. They're looking at other options. I know millennials that are looking at co-living situations.
Right. And
that's a way to save money that they would be either paying in rent or paying on a mortgage. And then they take that money and put it somewhere else. So I don't know. Now, also, if that is different, this is the big question. If a whole generation views real estate as different than we do and our parents did, and that, their parents, is that going to affect real estate as an investment vehicle?
Right.
I tend to think no, because you're still going to have people that rent. They're not making any more land. Well, except in Dubai. But other than that, they're not making any more land, right? They're not putting land out in the ocean. They're not creating more space except for vertical through high rises and things like that. So it appears that real estate would still be a stable investment moving forward. You just have this giant group of uninterest. And maybe that came from the millennials watching their parents go through 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And maybe they're a little burned.
Yeah.
buy real estate as an investment. When you see something that goes down like that, they think, well, if I buy this house, then the market tanks, it's going to go down. And that's when the
Right.
YouTubers making a bunch of money by saying, oh, the market's going to crash. Before that time period, that wasn't a thing. There was
Right.
no 10-year period in history in which real estate didn't make money.
But
Then
every
there was
time
some,
that we've had a cycle, I mean, we've always said it, real estate is cyclical, right? And so there's been multiple times that real estate has gone down, but
yeah,
every single time it's bounced back. And
yeah,
people, even in '07, '08, '09, like I said, we hit the bottom in like, I think 12. They've all made their money back.
yeah. If you could have
And
held
then,
on during that time, especially, you would have made a
yeah,
bunch of money.
right.
Yeah,
But reality is, if you made a sound investment on that house to start with and you didn't borrow against it and borrow against it and get into a payment that you really probably shouldn't have,
yeah.
you were okay. Like, it sucked. You lost money during that time, but you've gained that money back and then some.
But I think a lot of people also bought houses that maybe shouldn't have, that were
100%.
approved for houses that shouldn't have been approved. I
Agreed
remember the no
100%.
doc stated income loans.
I don't
Think
know
of it.
where that
No
money came
doc,
from.
meaning that they didn't have to prove it. Stated income, meaning I just tell the banker, I make $500,000 a year.
Right.
No doc,
I
stated
pulled
income loan.
$300,000 out from under my bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
No, I
there's a
agree
whole
100%.
bunch of people that shouldn't have even had a house like that.
Yeah.
And they're buying these houses that they definitely couldn't afford. So,
For sure.
yeah,
No, I
it's all
agree
been
with that
corrected.
100%.
But even through like the last 6 or 7 recessions, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I know that over the last 6 or 7 recessions, only 2 of them have actually lost money in real estate. One was negative 1.9%. The other's negative 19%. I'll let you guess when that was.
Right.
All of the other housing recessions, during a recession, home prices went up 3 to 6%.
Right.
So it seems like it's a stable investment moving forward once the market has corrected for the greed that was in. Greed is not good in capitalism, despite what the movie says.
Correct. My concern is that the generation that is kind of behind us is not seeing the benefit. They're either
Yeah.
not being taught or they're not seeing it. And so my concern is 20 years from now, what is it going to look like for them? And obviously that's why it's our job to try and teach and educate as much as we possibly can. I probably go off on little tangents too much because I think it's like a big deal to me because I watched what it did for my personal family. And so I know the benefits of homeownership. And I know a lot of people are like, well, Ashley, you're a realtor. Of course you're going to say that because you sell houses. But it's really like not that. It's the fact of that's how you get to the next stepping stone. But we've had a lot of people that are doing, I think we're seeing a lot of, like families moving in together. So like generational living here, which I mean, I think is kind of cool. It helps offset some of the cost. You can have, parents that are co-signing for kids that are buying. And if it works for your family, like, why not?
Yeah. And sometimes you have childcare living with you.
Oh, 100%. That's the best part.
Yeah.
That is absolutely the best part.
That is going to be interesting to see what comes out. I know other countries have been doing that forever, but it wasn't a thing in America for many years. So
no,
we'll see where it goes.
So we had a question. What is the best way to find a foreclosure or investment property?
So ask your agent, but in reality, I think, number one, you should be working with an agent who's going to be active in helping you to find those investments. I would say before you look for an investment property, come up with a buy box, come up with your criteria. How much, if you were to buy something for $100,000, how much do you want that to pay you a month? Or if you were to buy something for $100,000 and put in another 30, what do you want to sell that for when it goes on the market? So think in those terms of what you want your ROI to be. And you cannot say, well, as much as possible. You kind of need to come up with a bare minimum number, and then everything else above that is gravy. And your bare minimum number may be high, may be low, but come up with that number. And then I would say, talk to a real estate agent about what's realistic in your area and say, this is what I think.
Yeah.
No, I'm just gonna say this is, it's telling like this is what I think. If I find this type of house, is this accurate? Is it possible in our marketplace? What types of homes would give me this return? Because it may not be a foreclosure. You may say, well, the foreclosure has a lot more than $30,000 of repairs in our area.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you need to change your budget or decrease your purchase price or increase your purchase price. So I would say come up with a buy box and be flexible. Meet with an agent, let them help you look at those realistic options, and then go see some homes, see what's on the market. But I would totally hire that out. There's a lot of people that send the letters, you send a whole bunch of letters around, and that's probably effective, but then you're still going to want somebody that's boots on the grounds to evaluate that property for you. So I think it's still important to partner with an agent that can not only bring the documentation and everything you need, but is very aware of exactly what's happening in that neighborhood or market. I've had appraisers tell me, oh, this house should sell at this price up here. And I'm like, no, no, no. I think the house should actually sell here. And I'm right, because I'm looking at a market valuation, not a lendable valuation. And those are two different types of numbers. So
Yep.
it's not that appraisers are wrong. It's just that they're looking at the valuation differently. So I would say use some resources, kind of come up with a buy box, use a real estate agent, and then find some areas that you like and just look for those. We set up our investors. There's two ways we do it. If they have real specific criteria, we set them up with a drip that's specifically for that criteria. But most of our investors, we handpick the listings. So the worst thing you can do for an investor is like just to say, well, okay, I know you want something in this price range. Here's everything on the market, because then just get inundated with emails. So we go through there and we handpick it. We partner with a property management company that can give us a rent estimation. We have contractors that we call. We'll send them pictures of the house, say, how much do you think it'd be this? And we get general ballpark numbers. Then we send that as a packet to our investor and say, here's 3 or 4 different options. Which ones do you like? And then they tell us the numbers to put in as offers that would make those deals work for them. So you as an investor have to know that number. And you also have to be willing for someone like Ashley or I to tell you that's not going to be realistic in our market. Yeah. There's 10 other investors I'm working with that would take that for $20,000 more than what you're willing to pay. And that's the offer. They're going to get offers way above what you're doing. Right. And so just be realistic about that. That's my opinion.
And I think it really depends on if you're looking to, flip, where you're trying to buy it, renovate and sell it, or if you're trying to buy and hold, or, buy an Airbnb. I think all of that is really different. So I think really, like you said, really thinking about what your goal is when it comes to buying this property. What are you looking to get? What are you looking to gain from this property?
Yeah. You make all the money on the buy side. So it's not like you're going to buy a property and then for the most part, you can't really change it, put more money into it. If you've bought it wrong, you're toast.
Yep.
So be really careful as you buy and use all the advice you can.
Yeah. They said, can you still buy homes on the courthouse steps? Where is the best place to search?
Aren't those in the paper? In our area, those are in the paper. They'll tell you what's coming up on the courthouse steps. And yes, you can go to the courthouse steps and buy them. Yeah. I think in some areas you can use an agent to do that through. So if you're out of state, you can have somebody there bidding on your behalf. Yep. You would pay your agent out of pocket at that situation. Or you could just go to the courthouse steps and pay cash for it.
Yep.
But they only take cash.
I was going to say, that's the thing, is a lot of people don't realize, like, yes, you absolutely still can. Here, I know they are in the paper, but they're also online. You can look on the website for each county and see like which ones are going to be coming up. The hard thing about the ones on the courthouse steps is it's not like a traditional house where you can go and you can have a showing and, decide, do I like this? Do I not? It's not that way. If you see that it's coming up, because sometimes it'll literally be listed today and it's going on the courthouse steps tomorrow. So you've got to be watching and then go out, literally look at it real quick, make sure like, what kind of state do I think it's in? Is it worth it, or is it completely falling down and this is more than I want to take on? Because then you got to go, and they do not take financing. So people need to kind of change their view. They think, well, I've got a loan and I'm approved. Like, no, I'm sorry. They are a cash transaction only.
And I think there's different types of investors. So there's one group of investors, we call them owner occupant investors. And they are people that want the best possible deal, but they have specifics. They want the kitchen sink to look out into the backyard, and they don't want the shag carpet. And if it smells like cat pee, they're really turned off by it.
Right.
That is a different type of investor who will pay a lot closer to market value because they're willing to live there and let appreciation make up, over the 2 years that they live there, make up
Right.
for the purchase of something they actually want.
Yep.
The other type of investor is somebody that's just a real investor. They don't care if it smells like cat pee and cigarettes. They don't care if the window does or doesn't look out into the backyard, or what the house next door. What they're looking at is the numbers.
Yep.
And they're looking at the fix for the smell. They're looking at the fix for removing the wall. That's what they're looking for, the numbers. And if the numbers match, then they'll buy.
Yep.
And the courthouse steps person is much more of a numbers person than I think we want a yard that's a little bit bigger for our renter.
Yeah.
No, you don't. Because if the renter doesn't mow the yard and you've bought this house, you're going to be the one on the hook,
right,
for the fees from the city. So
yeah,
it's a different type of investing.
And as far as where places to search, I mean, I definitely think that working with your real estate agent and getting, their thoughts on locations of where to look, because obviously we're going to know where different, price points and things are. But then a lot of times I feel like realtors have the connections and the relationships to be able to tell you where some of the off-market transactions are going to come from. But if you're just wanting to get your feet wet and look at things, you can go on the bank websites. You can go on foreclosure.com. There's, a number of places that you can go to look at those things. But thank you for all of your questions, Betty. That was good info. So, well, Ray, I appreciate you coming on tonight. I know your area was hit pretty hard a little while ago. How are all of you guys doing from that?
We're doing good. So we got hit by the tornado March 31st, and it was really strange because it went right behind my house, and my house is fine. I still had a pile of leaves in the yard that it didn't even touch.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but just down the street, there were entire neighborhoods and homes that were completely destroyed. So it was really strange. It actually hit an area that we sell a lot in.
Okay.
So we've kind of adjusted, I guess, as far as the business aspect. We're trying to sell in other areas, obviously, because we can't do anything in those areas. So we have adjusted that. We've been participating as much as possible in whatever helps there are. Right now, I think on my stories, it may still be there from this morning or yesterday.
I was going to say,
yeah.
Tell me about that, because I saw it on your stories, but I wanted to hear about it.
So there's a guy who owns, it's Rock City Outfitters is the name of the company, and they're a t-shirt printing company basically. And they print really cool, fun shirts for Arkansas. And some of them are humorous that only a local would get. Some of them are, just normal, Arkansas shirts, that kind of thing. But they did a benefit t-shirt. They got a lot of requests for people to do a fundraising shirts, because they also do fundraising shirts for local events and stuff that's happening.
Okay.
So if you buy a shirt, they will give $20 to, they actually don't know where it's going to go yet. They'll give $20 to the relief effort. Okay. So it's been, I know some of you are saying like, wow, March, that was a long time ago. The immediate cleanup was pretty amazing. There was a bunch of people that jumped in, church organizations, people from around the state came and helped clean it all up and make it to where the roads were passable again. And, just kind of start to put things back in order. But there's still entire neighborhoods that are kind of down, that there's nothing that can be done there. And there's still people that are displaced. Well, what I know, whenever that happened, I actually called a couple of real estate agents that have been through hurricanes. And I said, okay, this is the closest one has ever hit to my house. What happened through the hurricane? And they said, well, what was interesting is months after the disaster is when the most help was needed and no one was there.
Right.
And so we specifically waited a couple of months after to launch this episode, I guess you could call it, for our YouTube channel, where I interview this guy and talk about the benefit. So they're about to choose some different organizations. We raised a little bit of money for the food bank because they're going to be feeding a lot more people than they thought they were. They feed about 17% of the state normally. And then when a natural disaster like this comes through, they're going to be just giving more food to people. So we did a benefit for them. And then I'm not sure where he's going to put, he's actually open for suggestions, but they're really looking to put the money towards the actual, like give it to the actual people that need it the most. So they don't really want to go with like, I don't know, like UNICEF or some of those big organizations
Right.
that eat it up with admin fees. They really want the money to go local to the people that need it. So if you buy a t-shirt to support Arkansas, that'd be great. $20 of it is going to go to help the locals here.
Okay. We'll make sure that we put a link in the description below, so that way
Yeah, that'd be
anybody
awesome.
that wants to get one can do so. So if I'm moving to Arkansas, which today I'm not, but let's just pretend maybe one day I am.
Yeah.
Tell me what areas you service in Arkansas.
So we're in Little Rock. And I should also point out that tornadoes, there's like an average of 39 tornadoes a year in the entire state of Arkansas. And there's usually only 2 deaths per year.
Wow.
So it's not like we have these, tornadoes going through everywhere. Tornadoes are very small. This one was 1.5 miles compared to like a hurricane, which is like 5, 6, 10 miles.
Right.
It's very small compared to that. So, and they also are in and out real quick. So I should probably say that. And also in like my 40 years of life, one has not gone through a city like this. So it's rare. So if you are moving, we work in Little Rock, but there's 5 counties around the middle that we serve. So I just tell people that I work in the middle of the state. We also have some people that can help you up in the Northwest Arkansas. That's the headquarters of Walmart, Tyson, JB Hunt, some of the world's largest companies there. Wow. Here locally, we have companies like Axiom, which have you ever heard of Axiom? You may have never heard of. Okay. Yep. They're the data company. So all the data on you is stored right here in Arkansas.
So scary.
There's Stevens is a big financial company here. So there's, but our primary, being in the capital city, our primary employer is the government. So our secondary is healthcare, because we are also kind of fat as a state. So we need the healthcare. but we have really good food. I feel like I need to visit. Yeah. I mean, it's great. So Little Rock is, even in the city of Little Rock, there's Pinnacle Mountain, there's Rattlesnake Ridge. I mean, there's all kinds of places to hike and bike and camp and all that kind of stuff right here in the capital city. So it's we are called the natural state, and they try to keep it as natural as possible. The number one comment I get from people that are moving to our state from other areas is, wow, look at all the trees. I'm like, yeah, we have a lot of trees.
That is awesome. Well, I really appreciate you joining us today. You're always a wealth of information and just truly a great guy. So I appreciate you joining us today. And I tune in next Thursday. Actually, next Thursday we're off because it's summertime. So tune in the following Thursday for more information, and I will see all of you guys then.
Bye.